Hello, everyone. A lot is happening in world diplomacy, as you probably know, and are following as closely as we try to and make sense out of all of this. I think it's pretty clear that the dust has yet to settle, and you'll hear many, many contradicting statements in the coming days, both on Iran, on Lebanon, and everything else. But what is clear is that Israel's entering a election campaign season. We have a very seasoned speaker today, an old friend, very astute analyst of what's happening in Israel and the region. So you're in for a treat. But let me just say a few interesting words about what is happening around us. So we're seeing very significant transformations and some surprises from countries like France that as of Thursday, Friday have made their voice very vocal that they're going to be opposed to lifting sanctions on Iran automatically in the Security Council as veto holders. We're also hearing tougher French statements on Lebanon and on Hezbollah and what needs to be done. We hope that this will continue. We encourage more positioning like this. The EU itself has also made clear their preference not to lift sanctions, but to focus on ballistic missiles, on the proxy network in the Middle East, on stability. So there are voices out there that are worth following very carefully, which we're trying to do. The UK just went through a transition of, or is going through a transition of government, of course, as you've seen. Germany has been solid on these issues. So Europe is a place where we hope to see more responsible and tougher positions on the issues that we're all very involved in. So without further ado, keep your eye on Europe as well as we go through this process, not just the White House and the ups and downs that we're seeing. And it would be good to have some balancing voices in the international community that we encourage very much. Without further ado, Dalmione from ELNET Israel will be introducing Asaf Shariv, our speaker today. And the floor is yours, Dalmione.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this important call. As Israel approaches its next election, it faces mounting domestic and international pressures. At home, disputes over judicial reform, military service, and settler violence are deepening divisions. Abroad, tensions with Washington over Iran and Lebanon, alongside growing frictions with Europe, are testing Israel's standing in the West. This briefing will examine Israel's shifting political landscapes, major parties, key players, fault lines, and coalition scenarios that will define Israel's place in an increasingly challenging environment. We have with us tonight, as David mentioned at the beginning, Mr. Asaf Shariv, a leading expert on foreign affairs, diplomacy, and strategic communications. Mr. Shariv was Israel's Consul General in New York, the youngest diplomat ever appointed to the position. Prior to his appointment, Shariv was the Director of Media and Public Affairs under Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and Ehud Olmert. Asaf, as Israel heads towards elections amid deep domestic divisions and growing international pressure, what is really at stake, not just for the next government, but for Israel's long-term trajectory? Thank you, Asaf, for joining us tonight, really, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro, and thank you, David. I've known David for 20 years. He didn't lose a single hair, and I'm still using the same barber. You look the same, David. I can tell someone who knows you 20 years. Well, I was asked to talk mainly about the coming election in Israel, which we don't know when will happen. The most chances that it will be either on the October 20th or October 27th. These are the two options. Tomorrow evening, the head of the coalitions in Israel, the current coalition in Israel, will have a discussion. And hopefully there will be a date coming out of this discussion. They need to decide should they shut down the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, later this week or next week, and put a halt on the controversial, I would say, legislation that's taking place in Israel these days before the election. So we are going to start the campaign probably in a week or two, something like that. Now, it's not going to be a regular campaign. We are entering into the summer. July and August are usually very quiet months in Israel, and September will be the holiday season. So basically, it's going to be, although it's 4 months before election, it's going to be a very short period of time of real hard Israeli-style negative campaign that we saw in the past. It's going to be mainly in October. Now, it's important because for Netanyahu and his coalition, they need to make sure that the temperature of this campaign is very high, that people will feel that this is the most crucial election, not only on the opposition side, but on their side as well. As of today, if election were held today, Netanyahu would have lose for sure. But knowing him for 30 years he's in power since he first took office, he's been in the tougher places before, and he was able to win eventually. So I think for him, it's not over yet. We're going to see what he's going to do in October. I might add that it's not a regular campaign for him, because if he's losing the election, there's a higher possibility of him actually finishing his career, not political career, his life in jail. Because if he's not in office, the chances that he will be convicted and will be sentenced to jail is higher. That is the case for his campaign manager as well, Jonathan Urich. He's a very capable guy, but for him, again, if Netanyahu loses, he will face a criminal trial for sure. So these two are really fighting for their lives. So should keep that in mind. Maybe we'll speak before in October, but October will be a very interesting month in Israel, I would say that. Now, I would say a few words about the political system in Israel. We don't vote for a candidate, we vote for a party. We have an 8 to 12 party that usually goes into the parliament, but it varies. And after the election, you count the number of legal votes and you split it by 120, which is the number of seats we have in our parliament. And the magic number to establish a government is 61. You have a majority of one of these 120. That was the case in almost every election in Israel. I think it might be different this time, which is the first election post October 7th, and then I will elaborate about it in a minute. So we have three scenarios, most likely scenarios that will come out of this election. The first and easiest path is that Netanyahu's coalition, the current coalition, receives 61 seats, and he's building another coalition and stays in office as a prime minister. As I said in the beginning, the chances are not high. The current coalition now has 68 seats, which is bigger than the 61. But eventually, in the last election, they received 64, and one of the opposition parties, led by Foreign Minister Gideon Saar, left the opposition and joined the coalition. But eventually, in the last election, the question was, you want Netanyahu as a prime minister or not? So 64 seats voted in favor. But if you go deeper into the results of the previous election, you see that it wasn't a majority of the coalition. It was actually a tie. If you take into account the numbers of votes that were voted for parties who didn't pass the threshold, who received 2 or 3 seats, you need to receive at least 3.25% of the votes in order to get into the Knesset. So if you count the votes that were actually voted for these parties, you see that there was a political tie last time, and because of a specific and very unique political situation, Netanyahu received these 64. So he's starting with 64, which is more likely than 60. Now, the past 4 years, I'm pretty sure I don't have to tell you, but it was the bloodiest years in the history of Israel. We are in the midst of war in Lebanon, for sure. Gaza is not concluded. We all remember October 7th. Our economy and cost of living is booming. So it's not an easy challenge for the coalition. It's not that they can do a campaign of continuation. People want something else. They need to convince the voters that they are the something else. So the chances of this scenario are not high. That's why I think Netanyahu is aiming at a different number, not at 61, but at 55. And I explain why. Usually, the Israeli Arab parties are receiving 10 seats. For those of you who don't know, the un-Jewish community in Israel is around 23%. So if they would vote their numbers, they would be much higher. But the percentage of voting is much lower than in the Jewish community. The one time they ran in one party, they received more than 15 seats, which is a lot. But in the last couple of years, they are running in 2, 3, sometimes 4 different parties and receiving altogether around 10 seats. In the past, it was always, it's a common knowledge that you don't count on these votes as something, as votes of the coalition. You can do business with them, you can bring them to a specific vote, but they were never part of the 61-year counting. That changed in the Naftali Bennett's coalition. It was established 6 years ago, I think, 5 years ago. And he was built a coalition with one party from the Israeli Arab minority. They were very good partners and loyal partners and actually very good legislators. But the fact that the government was, the coalition broke after a year and a half, and following October 7th, the common knowledge around parties, even in the opposition, that you cannot count on these votes to receive the 61. If you have 61 votes, you can add them, but you cannot establish or build your coalition on these votes. So if you take out these 10 votes of the Israeli Arab minority, you're getting to 110, and then all of a sudden, majority is 56. And 55 will bring you to a tie. And that's bring me to the second scenario. If Netanyahu's coalition receives 55 votes, and the opposition gets 55 votes, and the Israeli Arab minority receives 10 votes, you cannot build a coalition. So that's, on this scenario, this is the easy one. So Netanyahu's number to receive is 55 because that gives him like a safety net that there will be no government without him. It will be more challenging to the opposition and to Netanyahu if you receive, for example, 54 seats. Because if the current coalition, let's call it Bibi's camp, receives 54 seats, and the rest receive 56 seats. So they cannot add the Israeli Arab minority, but they can build a minority government, a 56 to 54, and to hope that along the first 2 or 3 months, they will be able to secure some of the Netanyahu's camp to come to them and not to stay on the coalition. So the plug number from Netanyahu is 55. The third and more promising to the opposition as of now is that Gadi Eisenkot, who is now the leading candidate or the biggest party among the opposition, will receive more than 61 seats again, or more than 56 and try to have a minority government. Why Eisenkot? As of now, there are 3 different candidates in the anti-Bibi's camp that are saying they're running for office. Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister, who his party joined with Yair Lapid, the former prime minister and foreign minister, together. They have a party that they thought that will be the biggest party among the anti-Bibi camp. That decision by both of them to run together was not a very successful decision, and it caused them to lose votes in favor of Eisenkot. Gadi Eisenkot, who is the former chief of staff of the army, was never a minister in the government. He's fresh in politics relatively. He is now the leading candidate between 20 to 22 seats. My estimation is that it's going to be much higher. I think he's going to take a lot of Bennett's vote until election, because if people believe that he is the candidate, people want to go with the winning team, and I think eventually it will be closer to 26, 27 seats. The third one is the former minister and finance minister, Avigdor Lieberman. He has 10 or 11 seats in the polls. Now he's running for office because he has to, because if he's saying I'm not running for office, there's no reason to vote for him. I don't think he genuinely believed that he will be the prime minister, although he is the most political savvy among these guys. He's been around a lot of governments. He's been defense minister, foreign minister, finance minister. He's done it all. Even director general of the prime minister office. He's really the most experienced politician in Israel. But eventually, I don't think he has a chance. Now, all of this important because let's say again that we're going back to the scenario that Eisenkot receives 56 seats and Netanyahu gets 54. Now, according to the political system in Israel, the president of Israel is asking all the chairmen of different parties to come to a meeting in his office and to recommend on the candidate. So among Netanyahu's camp, all 54, 52, 50, it doesn't matter how many, will recommend that Netanyahu will be the one to build the coalition. It's a sure thing. When you go to the anti-Bibi camp, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced that Naftali Bennett, who sees himself as a prime minister, will say, although I received 10 or 11 seats, I want Eisenkot to be the prime minister. So he might say, well, I'm going to wait. I want to see, I'm not recommending on anybody. And that if that is the case, so Netanyahu will receive the most recommendation. It doesn't mean that he has a coalition, but he will receive the most, the many recommendation, and that gives him the better path to establish a government. If that is the case, and he received the most, President Herzog will ask Netanyahu, he will give him probably first time is 21 days to establish a government. And then Netanyahu will try to lure some of the opposition members. For example, he can go to Naftali Bennett, who is mainly a right-wing guy who had a big fight with Netanyahu 5 years ago and decided to go with the other camp and to be the prime minister, although he received only 6 seats. So he can tell him, listen, you have 2 options. You can go be the defense minister under Gadi Eisenkot with the camp and other parties that you're not very friendly with. So basically, you're betraying what you're believing, but it's not because you want to be the prime minister, it's because you will be the defense minister. Now, I can offer you the same. You can be defense minister in my government, and you will go back home to your regular voters and to the people that you know for so many years. He can even throw, he said, you can do it for 3 years, and the last year I will resign and give you to be the prime minister. And if I would have been the political advisor to Naftali Bennett, I would tell him this is a better offer than what the anti-Bibi camp is offering you. So the fact that even if Eisenkot will receive 56 seats, it's not over. I think Lieberman eventually will recommend on Eisenkot. But if my assumption and belief, knowing Netanyahu for so many years, that if he will receive the chance to establish a government, if he will be the first, he will establish it. That is why it's important that Eisenkot will be able to secure Bennett and others' recommendation before the election. He should make sure that he will promise them either rotation in the prime minister office, either giving them whatever they want before election, that it will be all be solved before. Because I think the gap between the 2 parties will be so big that it will be it would be hard for Bennett to demand to be the prime minister if he would have 9 or 10 seats. Anyway, so it's in Israel, even if we are, when we finish the day of election, the real political system, a real political game just beginning on that day. Usually it takes between 6 weeks to 10 or 12 weeks to establish a government. This time it can be even longer. I think the most important thing for Eisenkot would be, even if it doesn't receive 61 seats, is to establish a minority government, even if it's 56 to 54, to ask the Arab parties not to participate in the voting on the establishment of the government, so he can say that he didn't count them in on his government. To make sure he's a prime minister, there are a new set of ministers. All of the current ministers are going to the opposition, meaning Netanyahu is not in office. Israel Katz is not the defense minister. All of them are losing their job. And then you can go to another election in 3 to 6 months. But in these 3 to 6 months, Netanyahu is off. Now, think about a younger Israeli, let's say someone who is 30 or 35. Since 2009, 17 years, he saw only 1.5 years that Netanyahu wasn't in office. People here, young people under 30, don't believe that it's even a possibility that Netanyahu will not be a prime minister. Now, for them to have the possibility to remove him and to go to another election, even in 6 months, but that in 6 months there will be someone else in the news every day, that someone else that will be the face of Israel. And maybe we'll elaborate about the challenges Israel has outside of Israel, not only domestically. I talked about the young Israelis, but if you outside of Israel, when people think about Israel now, they think of Netanyahu. Part of the deterioration of the situation of Israel in the world, in the public opinion, is because of the lowest numbers Netanyahu ever received. I think he's less popular than Khamenei now, and it's causing Israel obviously a lot of problems. But this is a different story. So I think the main goal of the opposition in this election is to make sure that even if they don't win, they receive at least 56 seats, so they can remove Netanyahu from office and then go to another election when Eisenkot is the prime minister. In the few minutes that I have left before we open it to questions, I want to talk a little bit about Gadi. I'm pretty sure you know Bibi pretty well. My assumption is that Netanyahu will offer a unity government and will try to call other parties to join his coalition. I think Lieberman for sure, Eisenkot as well, and the leader of the former Labor Party will not join Netanyahu and his coalition because that will mean sitting in a coalition with Ben Gvir and Smotrich. There are people, especially outside of Israel, who believe that Netanyahu will establish a government without them. I think that's not going to happen. He's counting on them. They were very close ally, very dependable partners, and I don't see a scenario that he will ask them to leave. He would say, "Come join me in the coalition," and then they will not be as strong as they are now. The only candidate to do it, in my opinion, is Naftali Bennett, but the chances are not high. Now, if Eisenkot will get let's say 56 seats, he will ask the Likud to join them, to join his coalition, for example. But the problem is Netanyahu cannot join a government because of his criminal trial. He cannot be a minister. According to the Israeli law, if you were indicted, you cannot be a minister. You can be a prime minister because the law was very specific regarding minister. But if you were elected as a prime minister, it's okay. But if you want to be appointed as a minister, you cannot. So there's no incentive for Netanyahu to join a government, even, let's say, as a defense minister or a foreign minister. And that means the Likud will never join. You cannot really have a unity government. So that leaves you with two options. One is to bring Smotrich and Ben Gvir, which obviously no opposition leader will accept that, or to try to add the ultra-Orthodox community, which I think in the current political atmosphere in Israel will be almost suicidal because of the draft law and the number of demonstrations by Haredi, by the ultra-Orthodox or the secular community. It is not possible, in my opinion, to go to bridge this gap on this time. So it's going to be more challenging for Eisenkot to steal someone from the other side. A little bit about Eisenkot. It was, as I said, he was a chief of staff. He's the anti-Bibi. You can't find a politician who is more unlikely than unlike Netanyahu. He has a very strong accent. He doesn't look like an American senator. He doesn't understand American politics very well. All his life he spent in the army. I'm doing political campaign outside of Israel. I wouldn't believe that a guy who looks like him and speaks like him can be a candidate. But I think after 30 years of Netanyahu, that's his charm. Because people here in a way are tired of this politics of how articulate Netanyahu is and how great his English is, people want something else, is from the Moroccan community, which is an advantage in Israel. He lost his son in Gaza. He lost his nephew in Gaza. He lost his wife's nephew in Gaza. So he can say that he's contributed to the war, to the Israeli effort in the war more than anybody else. It's very hard for the coalition to attack him. And because of his personality and the fact that he's such a charming teddy bear, the negative campaign which Netanyahu is preparing now will not be on his personality, but will be mainly about the coalition he can achieve. So what I explained now regarding the Israeli Arab, the one ad that Netanyahu's people will run over and over and over again will be Eisenkot has no coalition without the Arabs. That will be repeated again and again and again. Now, will it work? I'm not sure, because his biggest advantage, usually for politicians, the best advice is that you need people to either love you or hate you. You don't want them to be not interested in you. Well, Eisenkot, I'm not sure I don't think a lot of people love him, but I know for sure not a lot of people hate him. He's like someone you want to appoint, not to vote for. He's not giving you hope. He's not convincing you that he is the best leader ever. He's not very enthusiastic. But maybe in this period of time, he has the best shot of taking off. He's going to be the Kingslayer and to take off Netanyahu's after 30 years. I think I'll stop here, right on time, according to my time, right? Or
Yeah, it's perfect. But we'll have some questions, definitely. Thank you, Asaf. It was really good and a really insightful briefing. From potential coalition outcomes, which you really briefed really well for us, I want to stay a little bit longer on the domestic issues. And I have a question from John Mirish, who is on the call with us. How big of a role will the issue of Haredi exemptions from the IDF or another form of public service play on the upcoming elections? If you could elaborate a little bit more.
Okay, so first of all, I think it's going to be a very big part of this election. It's going to be for the opposition, for the anti-Bibi camp. Obviously, it's a very important issue that our sons and families are fighting, and they are not fighting. Now, but you see that Netanyahu's fighting, even this week, is going forward with this law. And a lot of people are saying, how can it be? Because it's such an unpopular law. And Netanyahu, you can say whatever you want about him. He understands politics and he reads polls very well. But still, he continues to go along with this law, even though he understands that he's bleeding voters because of that. And the reason is that for him, he's thinking about the next election. He knows that this law will not pass. Even if it will pass something, it will be it's not going to pass the Supreme Court, because obviously it's not going to be a legal law. But for him, what's really important is to keep his bloc, his coalition intact. And he's showing the Haredi that he will do anything for them, even losing votes. But he will keep going with them. He said, we are one group, we are going together no matter what. So even if I'm going to lose my votes, I'm still going to go and make it. I know it's important for you. I will go with you, even if I'm losing the votes. I'm not sure it's the smartest strategy, but it's something that he's definitely thinking over. And it's not because of what's happening now, because what's going to happen in November. He wants to make sure that none of them, even if Eisenkot will come to the Haredim and tell them, listen, you can join my coalition and I will change the law, or I will draft a new law that will draft only some of you, part of you. He wants to make sure that they will not betray him and go to the other side, as some of them are saying they will now. So eventually, I think it's going to be an important issue in the election when Eisenkot and other people in the camp, Lieberman, who is very vocal about this issue, Yair Golan, the head of the Labor Party, who is used to be the deputy chief of staff of the army, is a very high decorated general. Eisenkot is a general. Bennett was a soldier. It's going to be very important for them. The main problem in this issue is that not the ultra-Orthodox, the moderate Orthodox were also part of the coalition, because they are going to the army in a very big numbers, and a very high percentage of the militant units are part of this community. And for them, it's really annoying that they are basically giving their life for this country, and other groups are not. And these groups are mainly receiving a lot of money from the government, and it's their government. So it's going to be an issue not only for people voting against the government, but people who are supposedly voters of this coalition, but might stay home because of this. So I expect and assume that that will be a lot of ads and commercials on this topic.
Thank you, Asaf. And from Sia Kordestani from ELNET US, who is with us on the call, we have a question. To what degree is the Arab Party bloc all or nothing? Can a coalition ask half of them that are politically more acceptable to join, but not the other half? And I'll follow up on that question again.
That's a great question. That's really going deep into the politics in Israel. As I said, the Israeli Arab community, a very large community in Israel, they have different parties. Some of them are communist parties. Some of them are very Islamic and religious parties. Some of them are more secular. So if they run together, if you're an Israeli Arab voter or a Muslim voter, if you have one party, you're going to vote for that no matter what. If you have other options, you can say, listen, I'm not a communist, I'm more of a liberal, so maybe I'll vote for a Jewish party. So if there will be a larger number of parties, that will be easier for them to lose votes. For the Israeli Arab community, the best thing is to run together. But the problem for them is, if they run in one party, you cannot do negotiation with them, because some of the members of the Knesset on this party, some, not all, are either very extreme or very, all of them are anti-Zionist, but some of them are very anti-Zionist and very vocal on this. I think the head of the Islamic group, which is called Ra'am, his name is Mansour Abbas. He was the guy that was actually part of Bennett's coalition. So he's a religious guy, religious Muslim, but he understands it. And he said, listen, this is the Jewish state. I want to make sure that my people receive the most. So I'm going to take care. I'm not going to solve the Palestinian issue. I'm thinking about the Israeli Arab community and the people who voted for me. And that's what I'm interested in. Economy, equal rights, better roads, better policemen in the villages, things like that. So if there will be negotiation with him, he's a very good partner. And I think he did in the past and will in the future achieve many achievements for his community and many gains. But if they will run in one party, you cannot divide them, and then you cannot have a coalition with people, with some of the people in this party. It's unacceptable in the current political atmosphere in Israel.
And Asaf, to follow up on that, can a minority government rely on Arab vote from outside?
The answer is yes, but again, the problem is, since we're gonna, in my assumptions, we're gonna spend the next 4 months hearing every day, Eisenkot has no coalition without the Arabs. It will be harder for them to be based on this, the minority government to be based on that, and then go to election, because it will be very easy. You promise you're not going to do it, and that's exactly what you did. So I think it's going to be better for them to have 56 to 54 vote coalition, and to make sure that the other 10 Israeli Arabs, member of Knesset, will fly to the moon this week, when we will not be in the Knesset and vote in favor or against. And it's going to be 110 members of Knesset on that specific week. And afterwards, you can do whatever you want. But the establishment of the government needs to be on 56 to 54. By the way, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are talking about 110 Jewish members. It's not the case, but it has to be on a Zionist party or a party that is running, understanding that Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people. That's the difference. Some of the members of Eisenkot party for sure, Labour Party for sure, will not be Jewish. The thing is not your religion, but either you're in a Zionist party or not.
Thank you, Asaf. And the next question is from Joseph Krant. What will be the main topics for the elections determining how people will vote?
Well, every election there's a debate in Israel on the topic that are most important. There's a lot of people who are saying, well, October 7th will be the issue. In my opinion, and that's my personal take, every election that Netanyahu participates, the election are eventually one question. Do you want Benjamin Netanyahu to be the prime minister or not? And if you want, vote to one of these 4 or 5 parties. If you don't want, vote to others. If I would have been part of this political campaign in Israel, and I don't, and as a decision, I'm not working politics in Israel, I would focus on 2 issues. I wouldn't touch October 7th, although it's very tempting to talk about it, but I think every Israeli or everybody who lives here saw these pictures thousands of times, knows it, feels it, dreams about it, lives it. You don't have to remind them. What we see now in the polls, nobody will change his vote because something happened on October 7th. People already decided on things based on October 7th. But people can change their vote on other issues. My opinion, the first and most important, Netanyahu is 77. And he's not as strong as he was. We see numbers in mainly on younger voters, that it's an issue. I worked for Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, or before his 77th birthday, received a stroke and left office. And Ehud Olmert became the prime minister because of that, because he was his deputy and number 2. I would run an election that Netanyahu is 77, he has no deputy, and focused on the 5 or 6 people behind him. Meaning, when you vote for Netanyahu, you will receive Israel Katz, or I don't want to go into the details, but Netanyahu is a stronger brand in Israel than any of the people around him. Now, for him, for many years, if you were a moderate or a more sophisticated guy who could have been a threat on him, he would move you to another party or to a new position or something like that. He wanted beside him the most extreme, loud members of Likud because they made him look good. They were very loyal. Now, if you do a campaign that one of these guys will be the prime minister, it will be easier. Now, we saw the campaign President Trump did on President Biden. Biden was 77 when he was elected. We saw the difference between the first day in office and the last day in office. Netanyahu, as of today, had a few lapses in his speeches. He doesn't look as young as he was. Obviously, I think 77 is a very young age, but politics is a very cruel and cynical profession, and you need to make sure you have advantage on anything. I would focus on this issue for sure if I was doing on the negative campaign of the campaign. For Netanyahu, as I said, he will say, if you vote, first of all, Eisenkot has no coalition, as I said. The second of all, we changed dramatically the Middle East. You have no Nasrallah. I took off Nasrallah. I took off Khamenei, all the leaders of Hamas. And if he will use Trump's quote, if Netanyahu was not there, there will be no Israel. That's for sure he would use. Other than that, he will say we're going to continue to change the Middle East. That will be, I think, his main topics. I would add one for the opposition, the cost of living. Last time it was a very successful campaign by Shas. Shas is the Sephardi ultra-Orthodox campaign. They had the best campaign last time because they saw the price, they show the prices and how expensive everything became. Since then, prices went up 20%. Usually, Israelis are not voting because of cost of living. It's not like the States. But people will not change their votes from Netanyahu to Eisenkot because cost of living, but people will stay home and they wouldn't vote. And that is, in a way, this election will be decided a lot on the percentage of vote in different camps. Last time, Shas, as I said, and other parties brought Jerusalem to the high number of percentage of voters that actually participated. It was higher than in Tel Aviv, which is not usually the case. And I think if that will be the case next time, Netanyahu has a good shot. But if not, the opposition has a shot. So their main goal will be keeping people home. And then they will win for sure.
Thank you, Asaf. And from Clement Erbman, what about Yoav Galant?
Yoav, first of all, is my friend. I like him. He worked with me. He was the defense secretary for Prime Minister Sharon when I was the media advisor to Sharon. I known him for many years. Gallant will not participate in this election. He's staying off. He's still a member of Likud, but he's not running for office. He has legal problems. He's according to the International Court of Hague, both Netanyahu and him are suspect and need to be arrested if they fly to Europe. So I guess it's not easy to fly to his family, who's part of it are outside of Israel. In any case, he has an issue because he was defense minister on October 7th, but he became very popular because he was the first voice against Netanyahu from the political establishment of Likud. He was the first minister to say something, so he received some points in the public opinion. He's not going to be a player in the current election. He's a very good commentator on TV as well, by the way.
Indeed. And Asaf, how much will international pressure, desire to improve international standing weigh in the voting? Or are domestic issues more of a factor? Will they make a difference in the party that leads in these issues other than the Haredi issue?
In the past, there were American presidents who were very supportive in the candidates who ran against Netanyahu. We saw it in the past. It wasn't very successful. President Trump, as of 2 weeks ago, was very popular. And I think part of Netanyahu's strategy was to bring Trump here in the first week of October or the second week to say that Netanyahu is the key to Israel's future and a brighter and a better relationship with the States. Since the agreement with Iran, I think Trump's numbers are better in the States than they are in Israel, which obviously some of you know that they are not high. And even if we will say things in favor of Netanyahu, I'm not sure it's good. On the other hand, if you will say it's time for change in Israel, that might cause Netanyahu some problems. Regarding Europe and other candidates, Netanyahu tried Putin in the past before the Ukraine war. He ran a campaign saying that he's in a different league. He showed pictures of him with Putin, with Trump, with President Xi, and others. I think this election will be mainly on domestic issue, and it's going to be bloody. I don't think it's going to be anything regarding international pressure, international relationship.
Thank you, Asaf. And from Abraham Reisner, we have a question. Are there likely candidates for Eisenkot to peel off of Likud, Sar, Barkat, or others?
Barkat already left Likud and came back, so he would never do it again. He sees himself as the next chairman of Likud after Netanyahu. As I said, Netanyahu is 77, not getting any younger, so I don't think he's going to leave again. Saar, if he will try to run again, not in Likud party, will receive 0 seats for sure. He's very unpopular. He was a member of Likud for many years, then did the switch to the other side, ran for office, promised, received votes, and then took the votes and came back to Likud. I don't think he has another zigzag in his arsenal as of now. And I'm not sure what Netanyahu is going to do with him. I think Netanyahu, although he despises him, he understands that he's giving him more of not magnitude. He's more respectable. When you look at the list of Likud, it's hard to find someone like Saar. There are a lot of people who are not as I would say respectable or even experienced as Saar. So he's probably going to stay in Likud in the party. I don't believe he's going to move again.
Thank you, Asaf. And another question from John Mirish. How should we be thinking about Likud after Bibi? Who are the potential future leaders? You mentioned Barkat, Chaim Bibas. Anyone else? How will the new Likud leadership change the Israeli politics?
Well, I love Chaim Bibas very much. I think he's a great candidate. For those who don't know, Chaim is the mayor of Modi'in. Very successful mayor. My estimation is that there will be no Likud after Netanyahu. The thing is with Likud is a very strong brand name. In polls that we saw in the past, you see that if you would put a nobody as the head of the Likud, you will still receive 20 seats. That's how strong the brand is. Some of the people who are voting Likud are saying they are voting in favor. They are voting because Begin is number one, even though he's dead for like 25 years. That's all their life they voted for Begin. They will continue to do that. Now the thing is about Likud, because of their political domestic system, their primaries, people who are now part of the voting system in Likud are three different groups. A lot of Haredim, a lot of settlers were there, and all kinds of people that, for example, Nir Barkat brought, I don't know, 1,000 people. But if you get like 3,000 to 5,000 votes, you will be a member of the Knesset. That's not a lot. If you have enough money, you can buy yourself in pretty easily. This system is, in my opinion, is not sustainable because there's a huge gap between the people that actually vote in favor of this party eventually, because they respect Netanyahu, they believe in Netanyahu, they like him. And afterwards, I think it will be mainly a party of people who vote, of lobbyists and people who vote in politics or work in politics. And I think a lot of the people who are voting now Likud will go to Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is a much stronger candidate to be the right leader after Netanyahu. Some of them will go to Shas. They are voting Likud because they like Netanyahu, but they will not vote for Nir Barkat, for example, or for Israel Katz or Yariv Levin. And I think what will happen to Likud eventually is what happened in the past to the Labour Party. It was also a party of 48 seats in 1984. And then they received 19 seats even in 2006, and now they're 4 or 5. That's what's happened. So I think Likud will go to break into some 2 or 3 different parties that will be the fragiles of what they are today.
Thank you, Asaf. And from Jean-Louis Velez, is any party promising a full independent commission to investigate the October 7th event?
In a way, this election is a referendum on inquiry committee on October 7th, because if either party who are not in the current coalition will be voted, they will establish an inquiry committee for sure. I will say as someone who is very supportive of inquiry committee, I would say that there's no point of establishing it. And the reason is that Netanyahu, one of his biggest success is the fact that he convinced 40%, not more, 35 to 40% of the Israeli population that if the Supreme Court will establish this inquiry committee, it has no point, and it's a political party. It's a political committee. And he's suggesting that it will be similar to what we saw in the States after September 11, that it will be appointed by half of it will be appointed by the government and half by the opposition. But if you do like that, it's really a political party that will eventually, obviously, will be a tie, and nothing will come out of it. So my assumption is that eventually there will be a minority government led by Eisenkot, that the first law they will pass, it's going to be an inquiry committee that will be established by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and his deputy. His deputy is a right-wing guy, so they will establish it together. They will put one of the former Chief Justice of Supreme Court as a head, and they will have a 5-seat committee that will look into the details for 3 to 4 years. And once they will have their final verdict of what happened, none of the participants in October 7th will be relevant anymore, because Netanyahu will be, after he was convicted, I don't know what will happen with Gallant, and the chief of staff and the head of Mossad and the head of Shabak will also already resign and will not go back to political scene anytime soon. So yes, it will be, I believe that it will be established, and I'm not very optimistic regarding how it will be received.
Thank you, Asaf. And before I give the floor to our chair from ELNET US, Tom Flash, I want to read the last question from Cantor Goldstein. If keeping voters home in Jerusalem will help defeat Netanyahu, will the converse expanding the numbers of voters in Tel Aviv help unseat Netanyahu? If so, how would this be accomplished?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I'm not sure
I'll repeat it again. Yeah, of course.
beginning.
If keeping voters home in Jerusalem will help defeat Netanyahu, will the converse expanding the numbers of voters in Tel Aviv help unseat Netanyahu on the other side? If so, how this would be accomplished?
I got it. What I wanted to say earlier, and that's maybe I'll explain. I didn't explain myself well enough. The last election, Shas brought at least 40,000 people who never voted before. It's a part of the ultra-Orthodox community who are not they are not Zionists, they are not accepting the state of Israel, they don't speak Hebrew, they don't want to do anything with Israel. But he told them, and he, when I say he, it's Aryeh Deri, the leader of Shas, he convinced them to vote, because otherwise there will be laws against the Jews, and there will be no more Shabbat and stuff like that. So these people voted for the first time. Others, they were able to mobilize them to the polling station, because they frightened them, and they voted in a much higher numbers than in the past. In Tel Aviv and in this, the more secular community, in this election, you don't need to do anything. People will run to the polling station, and it will be full in 10 a.m. in the morning. People will go there for sure. The enthusiasm is now on the opposition side. You don't need to, in my opinion, you don't need to, obviously they will do it, and it's not something that any political strategist will say, but we are among friends here, I can say it. You don't need it. People will vote. You need to focus your attention to make sure that in the Likud cities and the Haredi cities, people are not as enthusiastic as they did in the last election. If they will go to the regular numbers, Netanyahu has no chance. That's what I tried to explain earlier.
Thank you so much, Asaf. Wonderful briefing. I want to give the floor to our chair from ELNET US, Tom Flash, who also has a question, and for the closing remarks. Tom, the floor is yours.
Think you're on mute.
Tom, you're on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to really thank Damioni, Asaf, and even David for opening this briefing. For the information is very, very interesting. I know that, at least for me, it's very difficult to predict the outcome, Asaf, of the events and the elections. There's so many moving pieces and has various consequences, and it's hard to predict. And with the changing environment, well, we're very concerned about the relations with Israel and Europe and the United States. It becomes so complicated that we really appreciate you bringing this issue today and explaining it so clearly. but I'm still complicated, but it's at least a little, it's a little more clear.
That's going to get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's true. But our briefings are intended to educate our viewers with the issues that Israel is faced with. We hear a lot about the internal unity of the Israeli people is something that is really, really important consideration because there's a divide there. We have the same kind of divide in the United States, but in Israel, there's a division. And when you start bringing these issues together and even highlight it, that is the domestic issues, the inflation, the cost of living, things of that nature, not October 7th as much because it's been reported in and out for so long already, but it's the domestic, it's their lifestyle, it's their daily life that is of concern to the Israelis. We hope that the election will address this and that the Israelis will be very unified in their national alliance to the country. So we are hopeful for that. You didn't comment on the current events in Europe, what's happening in the UK, what's happening in other countries in Europe. But be assured, and all listening audience, be assured, know that ELNET is on it. We're working every day. We have all our resources working and reporting. David does a great job of gathering things together from all the affiliates, and we try to keep all of our supporters up to date on breaking news. So with ELNET, we are hard and fast at work. My question was going to be about the national unity, and so I just made the comment, and I think that you covered it. So with that, I just want to say thank you so very much. We appreciate you coming and speaking with us today. I hope our audience have become more educated and cleared up somewhat. And hopefully before the elections, we'll have another opportunity to visit and get an update with your opinion. And so with that, I want to say thank you to all of our supporters. Keep supporting us. We need you. I noticed the dollar is getting a little bit stronger, not a whole lot, but at least that helps with us meeting our obligations. And so with that, I just want to say thank you all so much and appreciate your tuning in, and have a nice day, and we'll see you next week.